In this video you will learn how to build a responsive sidebar with animation inside Angular application without any additional libraries. And first of all, let's look on the project that I prepared for us. As you can see, we have an Angular generated project. Inside app component HTML I don't have anything, just word app, and inside TypeScript file it is also empty. But here inside app routes you can see that I already prepared several routes. We have dashboard, products, settings and pages. These are 4 components that I already created here, but they are almost empty. They just have h2 tag dashboard and then just an empty component and exactly the same stuff in each of them, because we want to use them as links inside our navigation. And obviously, as always, you don't need to retype all code that you see on the screen or the initial project. You can take it from the description box below under the video. So first of all, let's think about our structure. What I want to create are 2 additional components. First of all, the main component will be here on the right, and inside we will render each route when we are jumping to another page. And on the left, we need to render left sidebar with animation and all links. Let's create here a new folder and name it left sidebar. And inside we need 3 files. First of all, left sidebar.component.html, then left sidebar.component.ts, and left sidebar.component.css. Now inside HTML, let's just write left sidebar. And inside TS we can copy any TypeScript file from another component because it is super similar. Our selector here will be app left sidebar. The template URL is left sidebar component HTML and our styling is left sidebar component CSS. And our component should be renamed to left sidebar component. Now we can render this component inside our app component. In order to do that, we must import it first. This is why here left sidebar component goes inside our imports, and now here on the screen we can render our app left sidebar component that we just created. As you can see in browser, our left sidebar component was rendered on the screen. Now we must create an additional component for our main part. This is why here let's create a new folder main, and inside we have exactly the same files: main.component.html, main.component.css, and main.component.ts. Now inside HTML I will just write main, and I want to copy paste the content from left sidebar to our main. And let's name it app main, and in the template URL we will have main component HTML, and here will be our main component CSS. And the component is main component. Now we need to render it inside our app component, so first of all let's register it inside our imports. It will be a main component, and inside HTML we can render app main that we just created. As you can see in browser, we are getting left sidebar and main, which means both components are rendered correctly. And as always, my Angular videos are not about styling. This is why I want to paste already prepared styling inside our left sidebar component CSS, and you can take it from the description if you want. The main idea is that we have a sidenav and lots of different additional classes like sidenav logo container, button close, nav item, and so on. Now let's write our markup. We will have here div with class sidenav, and inside we will have div with class logo container, and here will be a button with class logo and an icon inside, and icon will be with class fal and fa bars. Let's have a look in browser. As you can see, our sidebar is there and we see an icon on the top, and you might ask, okay, how we're getting this icon? And in order to understand it, we must look inside our index.html here. As you can see, I added font awesome styling to the head. This is why we can use any icons from font awesome. Now let's continue writing our markup. After a button, we will have a div with class logo text, and here inside will be a name of our project, in our case app. And we also need a button with class button close, which we will use to close our sidebar. And inside we need again an icon with fal and fa times, and also a close icon class. As you can see now, we're getting the name of our project and a cross on the right. After this, we must render all links to different routes that we have, but in order to do that, we need an array so we can render them in loop. This is why inside left sidebar component, I want to create an items array. And inside we have objects with information about every item. First of all, here we need a route link. It will be, for example, dashboard. This is where the link is going. Then our icon, file and FA home, and then a label. And our label here will be dashboard. Now I want to copy paste it 3 more times and just update. Here router link will be products, and the icon will be file and FA box open, and our label is products. The next one is pages. Our icon is FA file, and the label is pages. And the last one here is settings, with icon FA cog, and the label is settings. So our array of items is ready. Now we can render them inside our markup. So after our logo container, we can create one more div with class sidebar nav. And inside we want to loop through our items. This is why let's use a for loop here. And it is item of items track by index. This is totally fine. And inside we want to render li with class sidenav nav item. And inside every single li we have a link. This is why a with class sidenav nav link. And here must be a router link. And this router link is coming as a variable from item.routerLink. But as you can see, router link is red here because we must import a route module inside our imports. Let's add here a router module inside our left sidebar, and now as you can see it is not red anymore. And after we added our router link, we also want to use router link active and pass an active class inside. In this case, when the link is active, it will be highlighted. And also we need router link active options with exact true. This is needed for our home page where slash can be on any URL, and this exact true is important, so it will be active only for the home page. And inside our A, we want to render an icon. Here will be a class sidenav link icon. And additionally, we want to provide classes from the icon of the item. So we can write here a class, and here will be item.icon. This is what we specified inside our array. And after this, we have a span with class sidenav link text. And inside we need to render item.label. This is the name of our link. Let's have a look in browser. As you can see in browser, our styling is not looking good because I made some errors in the classes. First of all, here should be not a class sidebar, but sidenav nav. Let's check again. Now it is looking much better. We have 4 links, dashboard, products, pages and settings, and they are even working. We can jump between them, and our route was changed. Our basic sidebar is ready. Now we must jump inside main and tune it. And I will start by pasting all styles for our main. It is not a lot. We have just 3 classes for our main component. Now let's jump to HTML. Our HTML is also small. Here we want a div with class body, and inside we want to render router outlet. But as you can see, router outlet is red. It is not a known element. This is why inside main we must inject in import a router outlet. Let's check again. Now it is not red anymore. So let's check it in browser. As you can see in browser, we don't see a content of our main page because here additionally to our class body, we need to add a class body trimmed. Essentially later we want to make it dynamic because it is only for bigger screens. And as you can see now in browser, our h2 tag is being rendered on the right. We can jump between our different pages and we see our main being rendered because it has an outlet for each route inside. Now it is the most interesting part. We want to write some business logic in Angular. What we want to do are 2 things. First of all, we can close our sidebar completely, and secondly, we can toggle it between full mode and toggle state. Which essentially means what I want to do inside my app component, I want to store a variable which will know if our sidebar is collapsed or not. And here I don't just want a local variable, I want a signal, because it is much easier to provide inside signals, work with signals, and so on. This is why inside our app component I want to create isLeftSidebar collapsed, and it should be a signal of boolean, and the initial value is false because it is not collapsed. Now we want to provide this value inside left sidebar, so our left sidebar knows in which state it must be rendered. This is why inside our TS file we can create an input isLeftSidebar collapsed, and it will be an input. It is required, and the type of it is boolean, which essentially means we must provide inside left sidebar this variable. So let's jump back inside our app component HTML. Now our app left sidebar is red because we're missing here a variable isLeftSidebar collapsed, and we can read it from our signal that we just created. So now our left sidebar knows about this variable, but we're not using it inside the markup. What I want to do now on our sidenav is to add a class. This is why here I will use ng class and provide inside logic. We have a variable isLeftSidebar collapsed. It's a signal, so I put here round brackets. Then I want to attach a class sidenav collapsed. In other case, it will be an empty string. But as you can see here, it is red because ng class is not known inside left sidebar. We must jump inside TS and inject here common module. As you can see now, we don't have an error, and we will add class sidebar collapsed when this variable isn't true. As you can see on the screen, it doesn't really change anything because this variable isn't false. We can jump here inside app component TS and just directly change it to true just to test. As you can see now, our sidebar is collapsed, but our code is broken, because here in the collapsed mode we just need to show icons and not labels. So let's jump back inside our left sidebar component HTML, and here we should not render our labels. I want to write here an if condition, and we're checking if our left sidebar is not collapsed, then we want to render our span. Let's check again in browser. As you can see now, icons are looking great and we don't have these labels. But now this button on the top must change the state of our collapsed sidebar. This is why here on our logo class I want to add a click event, and let's name it toggle collapse. Now inside our left sidebar we must create a new function toggle collapse, which will be void, and we must notify our parent that we want to change the state, which actually means here we need to create an output, and let's name it change isLeftSidebar collapsed, and it will be an output of boolean. And now we can call our output here inside toggle collapse. So it will be this change emit, and inside we want to provide our value with negation. So this is left sidebar collapsed, so we just toggle this value. And additionally, I want to jump back in app component and change our initial value back to false. But it is not all, we also must attach an output to our app left sidebar. This is why here let's get our change is left sidebar collapsed and just create a function change is left sidebar collapsed and provide inside our event. Now inside app component, let's create this function, and we know that we're getting here is left sidebar collapsed, which is boolean. This function will return void, and we simply want to update our state. This is why this is left sidebar collapsed set, and we want to set a value is left sidebar collapsed. With that, we successfully updated our signal, and the whole application will be in sync. Now, as you can see in browser, our sidebar is not collapsed by default, but then I'm clicking on our bars and it is collapsed. I'm clicking again and now it is full again. The next thing that we need to implement is closing our sidebar. So let's jump back in left sidebar, and here is our button close. So here I want a click event and the function close sidenav. Let's create this function inside left sidebar. Now inside close nav we want to use exactly the same output, but instead of toggle we can simply provide true, which actually means it will set is left sidebar collapsed to true. Let's check this out. I'm clicking on our cross and our sidebar is collapsed. But as you can see, here is the problem. We can still see our cross and an app, which should not happen. This is why let's jump back inside left sidebar HTML, and we need here an if condition. So what we need to do, we need to render these two elements only if sidebar collapsed is in false. So let's just put them inside. It is a div and a button, and now it should be fine. Let's check again. These elements are visible. I'm clicking on cross and they are not visible anymore. They are hidden. The next feature that we need to implement is when we resize our browser and make it smaller, it should just hide our sidebar, so minify it when we're on smaller device. How can we do that? Inside our app component, I want to create a host listener, and we want to listen for the event window:resize. And now here we can create a function on resize. We don't really need any parameters, but here I want to store the width of our screen in a variable. This is why here on the top I want to create a screen width, and let's just make it a variable and not a signal. So we can read here by default window.inWidth, and then on resize we also need to update it. So it will be this screen width equals window.innerWidth. So here inside our app component, let's store a screen width, and let's also do it as a signal. So it will be a signal of a number, and the default value will be our window.innerWidth. But additionally, we want to update this signal on resize. So here we can set this screen width set with new value, and it will be window.innerWidth. So every single time when we're resizing our screen, we will update this variable. And additionally here we want to write some logic. If our screen width, so this screen width with round brackets, is smaller than 768, then we want to close our left sidebar. This is why here this is left sidebar collapsed set true, which actually means we forcefully set it to true when we resize our screen. Let's try this out. Our sidebar is opened. Now I am making my screen smaller and it is collapsed automatically on resize event. But here is a problem. Our main section is not updated when we're collapsing it. Because essentially we want to move this content to the left, we don't need such a huge margin now. This is why what I want to do inside main, I want to create two inputs. So first of all, it will be again is left sidebar collapsed. It is an input which will be required, and it is a boolean input. And additionally, we want a screen width because we need some logic regarding it. So again, it will be an input required, and it will be a number. Now we must provide both of them inside our app component HTML. So here, first of all, is left sidebar collapsed is our signal. And we also have here our screen width, which is also another signal. Now inside my main, I want to write some logic and not just always apply here body trimmed. So for now, I just want our body and I want to write this logic in the component. And here I want to calculate a variable screen class, which actually means I will apply a different class based on different conditions. And here we can use computed, again it is a part of signals, and we want some calculations here. So first of all we need our variable is left sidebar collapsed, and in order to do that we can read a value from our signal. Now here we can check if our is left sidebar is collapsed, then we want just to return an empty string, because we don't need additionally any classes. But after this we need to check our screen width. If our screen width is bigger than 768, then we want to apply a class body trimmed. In other case, we're applying a class body MD screen, which essentially means when our sidebar is closed, we don't really care, we don't do anything. But if it is not closed, then on the bigger resolution, we're applying class body trimmed, in other case, body MD screen. And now we can jump inside our HTML and apply here our class with class attribute. Here we can simply call size class, which is a signal. But as you can see, for some reason the name is red. Let's check this out. Yes, I did here the wrong name. It's not screen class, it's a size class. And as you can see here, it's a signal of either body trimmed or body MD screen. And additionally here inside HTML I made a typo. It should be not class but ng class. And as you can see, ng class is not a known element, so we must import here our common module in the component. Let's check if it's working. Here we see our settings on the right, but when we're closing our sidebar, now it is on the left side. This happens exactly because of our computed signal. We're checking here resolution for a different position. And additionally here, when we will make our container smaller, then it will automatically be adjusted. And there is just one small bug left that we must fix. When we make our screen small and reload the page, our sidebar is not small anymore, because we don't have such logic. I want to jump inside app component TS, and here we have on resize and on initialize our isLeft sidebar collapsed is always false. Here I want to write implements on init, and we need to add here on init function. And inside it we can simply check that isLeft sidebar collapsed must be set depending on our screen width. So here will be this dot screen width should be smaller than 768. In this case it will be false. Let's check this out. I'm reloading the page and our sidebar is always collapsed when we reload the page on this size. So now you know how to implement left sidebar without any additional libraries in Angular. But what about table with filtering and sorting? If you're interested how to do it correctly, make sure to check this video because I already covered it there.